So when you put in your permit request, you're going to go to facilitron.com, whether you have already created an account or you're just going to sign up to an account. So one thing to note is if you're going to sign up for an account, make sure you do it as either a new partner or commercial. Don't do it as a nonprofit and don't do it as individual.
So a new partner or
either commercial. If you're to do a nonprofit, they're going to ask you to put in your EIN number, which you guys don't have.
We do have EIN.
Oh, okay. So I guess if you have your EIN, that's fine. I'm just thinking if you didn't have it.
We all have it.
Does each school, do you want each school to have their own account, or do you want multiple accounts?
Whatever is gonna I think if you have an account that you can pass on, it would be a lot easier versus if you're gonna have an individual account and then each person would have to create a new account each year.
Does one benefit the other?
No,
All the same?
yeah. So if you're gonna do, let's say, a new partner, it's gonna ask you for the organization name.
Okay.
And that's the important part. There's no preference.
No preference?
Yeah, and if you were to do a commercial business, they're gonna do an organization name anyways. Although I do recommend just doing a new partner. That way, by default, your first request will put you as a group 2. I think if you were to do a commercial, you'll be by default, your first request will be a group 3. Doesn't really matter for you guys because it's gonna be changed to a group 1 regardless on the back end at your first request. You guys, yes, yeah, you guys will be a group 1, correct? So let's say you already have an account, right? And you're gonna log in. So I'm gonna go ahead and log in with my own personal one. So you'll see what I would normally see. If I were to do it with my crazy account, you'll see a lot of data and that might freak people out. So let's say I'm a PTA parent. We'll represent Seaside because there's the majority of Seaside today. So from here, this is what you're gonna see. This is your dashboard. And on this bottom right here is where you would do a new request. So I would go ahead and do Torrance, California first. And then up here, I'll do Seaside Elementary School. And then do a search. Alternatively, I'm just going to show you this as well. Right here is where you can also type in, for example, Seaside Elementary School.
That's before you're actually signed in as your entity, right?
Correct. Or even if, yeah, you can, if you were to do this before you're signed into your entity, it's going to prompt you to log in.
Okay.
So either way would work. So let's say, school search. Yeah, we don't have that kind of field, right? So once you do that, it's going to prompt you to see, well, actually, this might not be the greatest way to go. It'll take you to all the Torrance elementary schools. I do want to point out one thing though. Yes, if you go where you do the new request, but I do want to point out something as well real quick. If you go to facilitron.com/TUSD 90501, this is our main district. So if you can remember that one or jot that down or bookmark it, Facilitron TUSD 90501. Facilitron.com/TUSD 90501.
Slash after TUSD?
No.
TUSD 90501.
Yeah, our zip code. .com/TUSD, or is that / or is that / I never know. Yeah, TUSD 90501. So it's TUSD and then our zip code.
And that takes you to the actual district.
Correct. This will take you to all of our school facilities. This is where people get a little bit confused because they think, oh, I can only rent the high school. That's not the case. And I believe they're trying to fix this. So this would be where you would go to enter in your school site. So when you click right here where it says enter facility, you can search for Seaside Elementary here, or you can just type in Seaside Elementary and it'll pop up. So do your search and that's going to automatically take you to Seaside Elementary School. Yeah, and all. No, I'm the banner person too, so I check. They're all good. They're all school affiliated. So here, let's say you are requesting an event, right? I don't know, NPR, I guess.
We've got a bubble run on the 31st.
Yeah, can you do that one first?
Sure, I'll do that. What is it?
We have the bubble run on the 31st.
On March 31st.
Where? What facility?
We're using the hostel.
The field?
Yeah, we're using the backstop too.
At Hull, not at Seaside?
No, at Seaside.
Oh, I thought you
So
said
we're
Hull.
using the whole school.
Oh, the whole school, I'm sorry.
So
let's
backstop
do-
one, backstop two.
Let's do field. So the backstop is actually just that little metal
Right.
for
okay.
the softball. So that's a good example because we're gonna actually requesting two fields, right? So I'm just gonna you're just gonna select one first and I'll show you why. So we're gonna do practice field 1. So right here, I'm gonna see Seaside Elementary, practice field 1. We don't have a picture for that, but I know that's what I need. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. And then you said March 31st, right? So March 31st, what time?
All day. So
Oh.
we're gonna have balloon companies coming on campus at about 7 a.m. in the morning to set up the balloons and the field.
Until what time do you
So,
end?
sorry, so from 6:30 a.m. I would book it for 6:30 and then till 3 p.m.
Okay, so something like that is during the day. Obviously, with this external request, we have it for the PM, right? Because in theory, we don't really allow outside renters to rent during the day.
Mhm.
So, which is fine. What I would suggest for something like this, I'll go ahead and choose 2 p.m. And then my end time will probably be 3 p.m., the actual end time. Not a big deal. March 31st. I'm gonna go ahead and add to cart. They're gonna ask me, do I need to add more facilities? And this time I do, right? Because I'm gonna add the other practice fields. I'm gonna go ahead and click yes. And I'm gonna go ahead and choose practice field 2. This is also, let's say you need the NPR or you need parking lot. Really don't choose parking lot. That kind of makes things a little bit confusing. But so I'm gonna choose practice field 2.
And the basketball court.
Oh, okay. And then
And then we use one of the rooms which we get electricity from for our DJ.
oh, hold on. So let's do basketball courts.
Explain why we do this for when it's during the school day.
Typically we don't though. So
So why are we doing this? Well, you are doing it because you actually need to have permission from TOSD to have your vendors and your activities on campus during the school day. In fact, it's probably more important.
yeah, especially if you have outside vendors. If you're gonna have outside
These
vendors.
are outside vendors.
Yeah.
If
these
you
are
don't have
vendors.
outside vendors, then it's up to you whether to
No,
put it
we
on or
have-
not.
We have several outside vendors.
So if
Yeah.
it's an
We
event
have a
where you don't
DJ.
have-
We have-
Um,
We're doing a library meeting. We've got the library committee having a meeting. We probably wouldn't need to, but
correct.
but for this, we have a photographer, we have a DJ, we have the bubble malicious
When's that?
guy
I might stop by.
on the 31st. It's a really fun event.
Is it March 31st?
Yeah. It's really-
So something like this, I would recommend having putting this on there, right? Because if something were to happen, we know that this is a PTA event, right? And then we'll know that in theory, if there was anything that were to happen, it would be coming out of PTA with
Yeah.
all the vendors as well. If something like a library meeting, I wouldn't necessarily put this, especially during the school hours,
Yeah.
because you don't really have outside vendors, or I'm sorry, outside renters.
Okay.
They're gonna need to book it. So the point of this also is so that we don't have any outside people needing the space. So essentially you guys are reserving
Yeah,
that
we
space
have
for you
parents come
guys.
on as well, on campus as well, so
And then with-
that's our biggest fundraiser for the year, so.
And then with the outside or with the parents, you guys know to have them do the Raptor
Yeah, they-
volunteer.
yeah, they
Okay,
do
great,
that, yeah.
awesome. Then you guys are pretty much covered.
So
Yeah.
basically, during the day, school day, you don't need it really.
Correct. You don't really need to
So
put it,
it's
the
only half
majority.
the hours, really.
Yes, it's pretty much for after hours, and that helps me too, because then if I know you guys are having an event and there's soccer there, I can let them know, hey, there's a movie night on this day. So either pretty much leave. So this applies for whether you are having it during the day, during the school day, or even at night. This is just simply putting this request in. So then after this, you're gonna go ahead and do a checkout.
The hours.
Yeah, so that's where, because you guys can't do from the 2 to 3, right? Or it's actually from the 7 a.m. Once you put this in the system, I'll be able to go ahead and change the hours when you guys are actually using it.
Okay.
So for here, the event name is, what was the event name?
Bubble Run, Seaside Bubble Run.
Bubble Run. For event type, you can just pretty much choose, I don't know. I would just do other for everything. That's not very important. And then number.
It's a fundraiser.
Not a big deal for that. That's not gonna factor in, change anything. And then the number of attendees, just an estimate. So for something like this, I would say 100.
So then,
200?
Well, there's 520 students and then.
Oh my
we're
God.
gonna get 200. No.
Let's just do 200.
200.
Okay, great.
Oh,
And then where it says my dates and times are flexible, you don't have to click that, press continue. And then this is where most of you guys see, right? Where they're gonna ask you if you want liability insurance. No, because the PTA already has liability insurance. You can just press no on that. Do the dates look good? Do the times look good? Everything else is fine. Just go ahead and press continue. You're gonna agree to the terms and conditions. Click submit. And then this is where you're going to see the fees. By default, your very first reservation, there will be fees because you're classified as a group 2, group 3, depending. But I'll go ahead and change you guys to a group 1. So to bypass any upfront payment, go ahead and just do by mail and then click submit. So by doing so, you don't have to make any payments.
Checks in the post.
Yep, pretty much. So it says here, your request has been submitted. Once this number, this alphanumerical number has populated, then you know your request is in. So it's on my end to send it to the school to approve everything. And here is also, you can upload your insurance right here, where it says this reservation requires event liability insurance. Don't worry about that with PTA. Once I see a PTA one comes through, I automatically upload it for you guys because I have the full PTA. Here is where you can enter the instructions and comments here. So if there's anything that you want the school to set up, chairs, tables in a certain format, that can be there. Something like this, because we're not putting in the actual time, then you can say event is from 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Please change. And then go ahead and click submit. And this is your request.
Okay, you said like set up chairs and stuff. That's for people doing it for us or?
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
Or if there's-
Like Harrison.
so if there's because there are events where the custodians will be able to provide you with the chairs.
Okay.
So if you guys are needing 50 chairs, the custodian will actually have those chairs ready for you.
Like a nighttime PTA meeting, a
Mhm.
lecture,
Yeah.
performance, it's something that PTA is asking to have like table chairs, risers, whatever put out.
Yeah,
Okay.
so anything like that, anything you guys need for equipment, maybe microphones or projectors, anything like that, that would be where you put it. So let's say you're right here now and you forgot to put all the setup instructions. You can still do so in the comments right here. So you can add anything here. I see it, and then I'll be able to change it on my end. If Facilitron sees it first, they'll be able to change it for you guys as well. So that
So
would be
if
there.
we're having a fun assembly, so we've got BMX riders coming in, we can just do this and we have to do it because obviously it's a PTA event
Mhm.
for a school assembly. So we would just put it at 2 or 3 and then just put that note in there.
Yeah, whatever the actual time is.
Okay.
And something like that for PTA, it kind of helps, especially for the setup instructions.
Okay.
So the custodians will be able to see the events that are happening at their school site. That is the fundamental goal at the end of all this. It's still kind of being worked on because it seems like the staff assistants are not really relaying that kind of information. But once we get that kind of all sorted out, they will be able to see all the events happening at their school site. And if your request is for, I don't know, something of an event like that, chairs or tables or whatnot, they'll be able to have that for you guys. So yeah. Yeah. One thing I do want to point out again, let's say, let's do it really quick. Give me 1 second here and go to dashboard. Let's go back to Seaside Elementary School
So
since
how
we're
far
there.
out can we book these for the whole year?
So right now we have it up in, yes, up in for the whole year.
Okay.
Starting April 1st, I'm gonna open up all the fall schedule.
Okay.
But for what you guys need for the end of the year, it's available right now.
Okay, so if we're gonna be planning our back to school night, and all that kind of stuff, we can do that after April.
No, I'm sorry, up until the end of the school year. On
Oh,
April
okay.
1st is when I'm gonna open up for the remainder of the year, all the fall schedules.
Yeah, so. I mean,
Yeah, sorry, so
after-
you're back to,
yeah,
correct,
after
yeah,
this,
yeah.
We can do all of our back to school stuff.
Yeah, if you guys already have all the end of 2023 already lined up. One thing I do want to point out really quick also in terms of reserving is if you are going to reserve for consecutive days, let's say a PTA meeting that's going to happen once a week, or that's kind of a lot, once a month, right? You guys can also do that as well. So let's say you're going to hold a PTA meeting in the NPR at Seaside Elementary every Monday at 5 to 6 p.m. I don't know if you guys do that, but
That's a bit confusing because that's two different locations.
what do you mean?
So the multi-purpose room is on the other side of the school and the cafeteria is here. So you've got.
Oh, you mean it's.
Oh, at Seaside.
Yeah, you've got multi-purpose room and
Two different
cafeteria.
Yeah.
Two different locations.
Got it. Good, good. You know what? Because I always, at every other school, it's the same
Yeah,
site.
We have two different, so we have the.
You guys have the auditorium.
We have the old computer lab
Yeah.
is the multi-purpose room and then we have the cafeteria. So as you're walking into the office,
So
the
that's
right hand side.
For Seaside.
Yeah, there's a computer storage room. And
Yeah.
the other side of that is the multi-purpose room. That's where the multi-purpose room is, and then the cafeteria is where they have the lunch. So
Yeah, and I think the cafeteria, they call it the auditorium, don't they? There's a
it's kind
sign
of- it's got
and
a
a sign in the
stage, so
front.
they probably call it. a
Yeah.
stage.
I'll change that for Seaside.
Yeah.
It's because every other school is, it's the same. Yeah, so there's usually just one and then it's
Sometimes
kind of
like
interchangeable.
somebody's walking to the Cafeteria and somebody's trying to book it in the multi-purpose room and the book.
But then in the notes, can't you write this one's for the multi-purpose room? and
It'll be better to
this-
separate it, so I'll make sure Seaside in particular gets separated.
Clarify, like the multi-purpose room, I don't really think we rent that out to outside people.
We
Or
do.
cafeteria.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the teachers might use it.
There's
for
a bunch of
things.
storage in there. I wouldn't rent that out to them externally.
I think with Seaside in particular is a little bit different, but with all the other schools, like all the regular elementary schools, it's interchangeable. Yeah, and it's either called it's the cafeteria, but then when it's not the cafeteria, it's the NPR.
Stage room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good to know, and I'll make that change on this. I'll ask them to make that change in the system.
Yeah.
But let's say you're reserving the cafeteria, the one where the lunch bench is over there to do a meeting or a classroom, whatever it is that you guys are doing. You guys can also do like a repeat weekly.
Okay.
Or if you were to do select my dates, because there isn't a monthly option, see how this one's green, then you can just go April, May, yeah, and click it. And you know you've clicked however many you have, because on the bottom it says add 3 days. So that's how you can do that. Or you can do repeat weekly because you're gonna meet once a week. You can also meet, let's say you meet every day or whatever. This is where you would go to differentiate the two. Select my date or repeat weekly. But know that you can choose multiple days. You don't have to do one day and then do multiple requests. It can all just be done on here in one time.
So as a group one, we're not charged for anything. Is that the difference between the groups?
Yes, so as a group one, you guys are not charged anything. However, there are charges
For the custodian fees and
for the
stuff, right?
custodian or a supply fee. That's not a mandatory fee. That's really a fee that should be discussed amongst you and your school's principal. So depending on how if you guys have enough volunteers, then typically there aren't custodials or
We have this custodial for movie nights and things like that. What about the civic permits? Do we have to, is that included when we do this, or is civic permits separate?
No, this is taking over civic permits.
Okay, so if we're having a late night movie night,
Mhm.
which we
Oh.
do once a year, and we have a monster mash once a year. We have to get.
She means
council
with the
permits?
city.
The
That's
city.
actually
Oh,
a city thing.
with the city permits.
That's different, isn't it? This doesn't wanna
This
have
is just for the school district.
Okay, so we have to get a separate city permit.
Mhm.
Ye-
Say we're going to do a celebration of son or daughters, whatever kind of dance, and we want to use West High or
Mhm.
South High. So do I go in there? to-
Yep.
We do this. do it
Yep.
this way.
So that's
And I don't
where
have to ask anybody if it's available, or all through there, you'll say if it's available. or if it's-
they'll see whether it's available or not.
Okay.
But yes, that's why the facilitron.com/TUSD 90501 is helpful, because if you're going to request something outside of your school site, this would be where you would go to. So you can go to West High. If it's grayed out, you know it's not available. And if it's green or if it's white, then you know it's available. Put in your request. They'll let you know whether it's available or not.
Yeah.
Typically, if it's during the school day, they're not going to charge you guys, especially at West, they're not going to charge for any sort of labor fees. But if it's typically, rule of thumb is if it's a really big event, where if it's going to take the night custodian away from his regular duties, then we suggest hiring a custodian. The idea is after your event, if we can conduct class right after, then that's kind of the condition that we're looking for. And I think that's where the principals, where they would like to have a custodian certain times for something like that, because each principal has different expectations. So it really just depends on your principal and how they feel about
I think
the
it's lockup and
condition.
security.
I'm sorry?
I think it's good to have that somebody else can do lockup and security.
Yes, yeah. But if it's for a weeknight event where there is already a custodian on staff, there are certain times where I think there's been some issues at certain school sites where the principal feels as though that night custodian isn't able to clean up the classrooms because they're working that event. So that's why they would prefer to have a custodian staffed just for that event. But again, that's up to you and your custodian, or up to you and your principal to discuss whether, if you have enough volunteers to do all the cleanup and tidying away and they're okay with that, then that's fine. It's not a mandatory. I really leave it up to the school site because that's the relationship that you guys have with your principal.
Yeah, and you can negotiate it with them. We actually always suggest that PTAs do some sort of a materials donation to the schools when you do use the facilities a lot, because especially
Yeah.
at elementary, you do. And just, give them $100 or $200 or something for toilet paper and
Yes.
paper towels and that kind of thing.
So when we charge a supply and restroom fee through Facilitron, that is 100% reimbursed to the school. Well, everything is reimbursed to school, even if you were to do labor. Obviously, we're taking that money to pay for that custodian over time. Yes.
So now, instead of setting the money aside or having the money given to the school for the custodian, we then pay you now so that it goes to you and then you'll give it to the school?
So what we've been doing with some of our other sites right now to kind of not, so in the past, what we would do is we took the highest paid custodian and that was the price we would charge district-wide, regardless of how much the actual cost of your custodian that's working your event is. But we've actually kind of changed that to kind of offset some of the costs. So if what we've kind of implemented recently is whatever custodian is working your event, he'll do his timesheet and then I'll sign off on it, or I'll create the timesheet for him, put the PTA account, and then send it over to the school site, and then one of the treasurer, president, whatever, will sign off on that timesheet saying, yes, we approve for funds to be taken out of the PTA account to pay for this custodian. So that's something that we've been doing as well, just to offset some of the
And the
custodial
PTA
costs.
account, she means that each of you have a line item at TUSD where you would actually put money in, and that is your PTA account.
Correct.
So we
So
can
that's
have
where the
it
money
like a,
comes.
so like a lunch money card where we put in the money and then the kids kind of take it out as needed. It's kind of like that for, janitorial. We
I'm not
put it
sure
in.
how that, I don't know how that account is funded.
You can, but you might want to wait until there's an event and you know what the
Okay.
actual amount is, and then put it in. Just so the money is there when it needs to be expensed.
Our elementary school always gets like 500, like.
Yeah,
flat,
some
that's
do.
it. And that's it.
And that amount, I'm assuming, goes
Yeah.
into that PTA account string. And then when you are staffing a custodian or a custodian is going to be working your event, that PTA is paying for, or an AV tech, whatever the staffing is. I just write bill to the PTA account, and then I make sure that there is a signature from PTA that's authorizing this removal of funds. And then submit it to payroll, and payroll will take that money out to pay for that custodian for that particular event.
So many channels.
So
Seems like
Yeah,
it's
that's why
eas-
it gets very
It seems
confusing.
like it's easier to just, donate, like, give the school like X amount of dollars.
Yeah,
To say, oh, here's this money, it will take care of custodian for the rest of the year, kind of.
that works
Your
too.
channel's going through this, to sign, to get approved, to the district, and finally you cut a check, right? And it goes
Well,
to the school.
Well, in the way you're doing it, I'm assuming is if you were to put all that money into your PTA account, right? Our way is to know who is paying for that staffing.
Mm.
So that's the only reason why
There's
we
paper
go this
trail,
route.
paper trail, okay.
There's a paper trail, and also if it doesn't say bill to PTA, then where is that money coming from, right? That's paying for that custodial, that custodian.
Principal, can you waive that custodian?
Yeah, that too. So if the principal is okay with that, or if they're willing to pay for it out of their account, then yes, it would be going out of that
You have
account.
different options too.
Correct. Yes.
Sorry, so Towers is gonna be using West Side and you mentioned AV. So if they had like a set amount to get the, West Side Performing Arts Center and going to Facilitron, we would be using that to pay for any, AV person?
Correct. So let's say Victor, you said Towers or
Towers.
Towers? Let's say Towers is going to use West High Performing Arts Center. Typically, there might not be any labor associated with it, but let's hypothetically say there is. Now, you guys want an AV tech because you guys are going to have really fancy lighting. There's going to be 2 hours, right, of AV tech. So the AV tech is going to do his timesheet, right? And then he's going to most likely give it to me. And then I will write down to payroll to let them know that bill to Towers PTA because I have the account string. And then I'll send it to Towers to have one of either the principal or a PTA rep sign off on it saying that, yes, remove funds from the Towers PTA account to pay for this AV tech. And then that's how payroll knows where to take that, the funds from to pay for that particular staff member.
We'll see the amount when we're filling out the Facilitron, we'll see what those extra costs are, so we even know to have that discussion, right? Like with the
So you're not gonna
principal.
know the actual amount of the charge because we don't know who's gonna be staffed at the event is.
Yeah.
But I do say that the maximum it will be, right, would be $66 for the AV, because that's the highest.
Per hour?
Correct, yeah. That's the highest AV person is. And for the custodian, the highest is $48 an hour. So I always tell people that's the most that you're gonna be charged. It shouldn't exceed that amount.
I like to see the charges for the reflection side, I'm sorry, I'm just curious how.
Sure, yeah,
How the building would look like.
okay.
My other question being, like, if we are using a council, at least the high schools more frequently, should we continue to work with the principal and the site supervisor in conjunction with the Facilitron? Like, do you have does the school district have a recommendation about like who should be contacted or touch base with first without the like, at the high school level?
At the high school level, I would suggest for sure putting in your request, because when you put in your request, it's gonna go to the site supervisor for approval anyways. So if you don't want to contact the site supervisor directly, you can just do a Facilitron request. even do a comment section and they can see it too. If you want to do like a placeholder, versus kind of calling them ahead of time saying, hey, is this date available? It would help because they know their schedule and what's coming up. It does help if you want the future planning, but if you are more flexible on your dates, then you can just put in a request and they'll be able to see it.
So in the last several things we've arranged for council, we go to
Yeah.
Facilitron.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
go to Facilitron and request the permit, and you can see right away whether it's available or not, although during the day.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't.
during the day.
But, and then within like 5 minutes, it went to the site supervisor and she was back and said, oh, yeah, we're glad to accommodate you and what do you need and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So it was so much more efficient and effective.
Okay.
It's really good.
So through here, they're contacting back, like, is that where all the?
So don't think Facilitron is kind of managing it. It's really still us.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just a
That's where I think I
platform.
went.
Yeah, they're very,
Done.
yeah, they're very involved, especially with some of our outside renters and kind of the insurance and the collecting of fees and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's still us managing it, right? So when you get a request, we still see it. The school still has to approve everything. We're very hands-on behind the scenes. It just looks like they're kind of involved because they send out a lot of
It's
emails.
very cool.
They send out a lot of emails, which I'm sure you guys are all getting. But really, the sites are getting it, I'm getting it. I'll update your reservations too. Like if I see someone say, please change the time to so-and-so, I'll go in there and I'll say, time has been changed, thanks, Van. So that way you guys will know that something has been changed.
And apologies if this was gonna be answered at some
Not at all.
point, but like, so I'm imagining I'm arriving on shows, like at, sorry, day job. I'm arriving at the site, right, school site, and I'm looking for the custodian and or AV, or we're hosting a classroom event or training or whatever. Who would I contact? Like, is that worked out through Facilitron and the emails back and forth, like in advance? Like, let's say I want to schedule something at North High. Am I expecting an email from you or from the school, or to figure out who my on-site contacts are when stuff, if and when
I
stuff.
turn up to run the event and there's nobody
Yeah,
there, the phone ring.
Yeah, so
That's probably the best way.
Sure. So the best way is obviously if you have already made that, if you've been already communicating with your site supervisor, most likely they are already aware of it. And if they've already shared their contact with you, great. If not, I'll go ahead and, I don't know if there's going to be any sort of literature that's going to be sent out after this, but I'll go ahead and give it to Terry. So at least you guys have my work cell. Feel free to shoot me give me a call or even text me, and I'll find the appropriate person to help you guys. I haven't seen too much of where they've come onto the site with that problem, but just let me know. I can always get a hold of that person to make sure to open or whatever it is that you guys need. And another thing to note too, if your event is starting at 8, but you guys want to get there at 6 a.m. to set up, that would be a good thing to put in the comments too. So at least they know that you're going to come at 6 a.m. to set up, or else they're going to think that you guys are, I think,
Jumping a fence, trying to get.
yeah, which happens all the time. We usually just have 30 minutes of where we'll have a custodian come early, only 30 minutes, and then an hour to clean up. So that kind of communication would help a lot. Any other questions? One thing to point out that I get asked a lot is about insurance and bounce houses and obstacle courses. So yes, that is allowed, but we do ask that you guys have at least someone there to supervise. And with the obstacle courses, it's just one at a time.
Wait, say that again about obstacle courses?
So if obstacle courses are approved, but as long as there's someone there at all times to supervise it, and ideally if there's only like one kid that comes through at a time versus just a bunch of kids going through the obstacle course at one time. But that is something that the district is okay.
But do keep in mind, there's 2 different approvals you need for any event. One is through TUSD, getting your permit and making sure that they approve of the vendors, et cetera, et cetera. But with your PTA insurance, you need to double check with them too, because there may be something in that obstacle course that PTA insurance will not cover. and you need to know that.
I thought they cover certain type of
Yeah,
bounce.
Yeah.
I don't remember Oscar bounce as one of them.
yeah.
Bounce houses was gonna be okay. But hey, they changed it, that's great. If they allow it, that's, we're all
Yeah.
fine.
And if you're gonna have outside vendors, keep in mind too that,
The insurance.
yes, you need the insurance and it's you're operating as a separate entity from the district. So just bear that in mind, right? So if something were to happen with the vendor and I don't know, I can't think of a situation where there might be an incident with a
The
vendor.
DJ,
Trips and
DJ,
falls.
their equipment falls over into water.
Yeah.
There you go.
Something.
Yeah, but it trips and falls on his own equipment, right? Versus let's say he trips and falls on his own equipment, right? Not necessarily trip and fall on a district crack. Yeah, so something like that, then that's where the insurance would come in, right? Or something, as long as it's not within something that we cause as the district, as the facility, then that would be on their insurance. So you wanna cover your own butts, right? Because something like that, and they're like, hey, PTA, exactly, you don't want them to go after PTA. That's why we ask them for their insurance, so at least we know that they're covered. So that you guys are off the hook for any situations like that.
So as we're going through all this, you don't need all of those vendors, certificates of insurance or proof of insurance. We need to, obviously, as PTA people, have that.
Yes,
Make sure
you
they
know,
have
ready
it.
in case something does happen, but you guys don't need that, you just need our.
correct. Yeah, we don't need record of that, but I do suggest having that in case something were to happen and there's a claim against the district, we can ask, hey, where's the liability insurance? And you will have it right away because you guys have already collected it.
But the vendor would be district approved anyway.
Uh,
The vendor should be district approved, right? You shouldn't be just using any vendor, right?
It depends. It depends
They're
on.
really approved vendors
Oh,
for us
I
to
see.
use.
Yeah, we don't really approve vendors, but there are certain times where it would be nice to see if it's even something that the district would approve. Like if you're gonna have a pony on site, that's check with Dr. Butler or myself or Donna, anyone in administrative services, to see if that's gonna be something that the district will approve. But as far as what
about our
vendor you
snakes
use.
that turn up?
The random goat.
The random goat?
You ever has a goat that sometimes.
Oh, I don't know if the district will approve of that.
We have an alligator this year.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I think any unit, usually,
Yeah,
they bring
okay.
any vendor. All the
Yeah.
elementary will bring a photographer,
Yeah,
a photo booth. It's not just for like please or something.
yeah,
And we're supposed to ask, do you have insurance? Do you have your workers' comp?
exactly. You wanna check all that.
Liability, workers' comp.
Food trucks.
Almost always we don't
Yeah.
have.
Food trucks is kind of separate because the city is very big on food trucks and the approval of food trucks. So there's only a handful of people that are approved in the city level. Personally, and I always tell our outside renters this, I said, look, we're okay if you guys have food trucks, but if the city comes and they kick the food truck out, then that's on you guys. That's not really.
You say
on us.
at a school, if a school has a food truck come on their campus,
They're operating in the city of Torrance.
that's the problem. That's what.
Correct. Correct.
They
So
have
that's on
problem.
you guys, and especially if you're using a non-city approved vendor.
But they could get a 1-day permit, the food truck, right?
But I think there's a lot of regulations with food trucks, so they might not be able to do as a catering. You might want to check with the city on that to do a 1-day.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
we have random people coming in to sell glow items during Christmas and they can't kick those people out. Like, and it's like literally becoming now an issue. And
Yes.
I was just told all this for next year because the other bake sales and stuff that we do at people's houses, it's the people who are getting the permits are the people getting kicked out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just like those people who are pop and shop on the sidewalk to sell tacos. They don't have permits, but they can't kick them out.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I know the
Food
city.
truck people who
Yeah.
got a 1-day permit could
Right.
get kicked
Yeah,
out.
it's ridiculous.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous. That's popping up everywhere now.
Yeah.
By West Side.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we have
Yeah.
one right on Milne and,
yes.
PV Boulevard,
Yes.
fruit stand.
Fruit stand.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know the
But
city is
Christmas-
trying to crack down a lot of that, especially at the park, in the parks.
Yeah.
But as far as the district goes, I don't really see an issue with, you know, fundraising with food trucks, but
We make
again,
about $3,000 at a night at the Christmas lights selling hot cocoa.
Oh, are you
One-
someone,
one delicate-
there's a unit that used to have a food truck fundraiser.
And we don't
It's
have that,
on
but
your
we,
guys'
we,
side.
we've got houses all through that area with parents and we have food here.
Was it Riviera? I
Yeah,
remember
right.
someone.
There's so much money that they make down there. We
Yeah.
run it. We don't run it every night because we're like done with the lights by the second week of December, aren't we? Damn lights, can't get up my drive. But,
There are units who, questions always come up about the food truck. You know, we want to use this food truck. And I tell them, there's some district approved, and there's a list. And then I give them that and say, here's the list.
yeah, they're not really district approved, they are city
City
approved.
approved.
Yes, yes,
But
there is
city
a difference.
approved, I'm like, this is who it is, and they only use in and out. They're not on the city approved, but it's in and out, and
Yeah, and I think a few years ago, there was an issue where I think they got busted at the PTA. Yeah, there was a bust with a PTA event. So that's why the district was so big on the food truck incident, because of that one incident that where I
so
think
you can take your chances. and-
Tara was there, she can tell you.
So you can take your chances, get a food truck at your school.
Yeah.
But someone calls in, the city will come and like,
And if the city comes, so the problem is that all of these people that are showing up are supposed to be approved by the health department. And it's the health department that's not able to follow up and enforce that they meet regulations, which is also true for food trucks. In fact, you have to meet the health regulations to have a food truck and have a TU or a Torrance Police Department inspection that you are certified to actually operate in the city. So you're supposed to have both of those things.
to the old fashioned bacon cake.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, same here. It seems like their regulations were.
The one day program, they have liability insurance, Wisconsin was okay.
I think the city takes a lot of precaution with food trucks. I don't know why. I don't know if there was a history with the city and food trucks, but for some reason, there's a lot of loopholes that vendors have to go through to be part of that list. And I think that's why that list is so small. It's like only 5 people. Yeah. It's very little.
I think it was like maybe 10, 8 to 10, I'm like.
That's not that many.
What's that?
So did you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about the vendors or the outside contractors. Did you cover that?
Yeah, so that's pretty much what we were discussing. That's
that-
up to you guys to, you know, keep track of. Just think of it very, almost in a legal way, right? So you just want to cover yourselves. And that's pretty much the good way to go about, whenever you're having an outside vendor, just to make sure you're covering your butts. And I think that's about it.
And an outside vendor is different during the day when the students are on campus versus in the
Oh,
evening?
yes. So if the outside vendor is gonna be there physically on site conducting interactions with our students, they would actually have to go through, actually, I think that was changed. I talked to purchasing about that. And they said, as long as they have the liability insurance, you're fine. But then those individuals also have to do the Raptor, the Raptor volunteer as well. So they don't really,
Contractors themselves.
correct, yes, especially if they're gonna be interacting with the students.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
How much time would you say would be a good one? Like, let's say you have a group coming in and they're doing, like, let's say they're running your bubble run, and they're helping organize the bike, not the bike rodeo, but the jogathon or whatever, and there's like 5 of them. Should they do the Raptor in like a week in advance? Should they do it as soon as we book them? Like, what would? be
I don't
the-
know what the time frame is for the Raptor. I think as long as they do it, I think it's relatively quick, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to ask IT about that. But as long as they fill out the Raptor volunteer, and it's on the district's website, as long as they do that, then they should be okay.
But they're visitor. If I'm a parent.
If you're a parent volunteer, then you have to do the
volunteer,
Raptor.
but I'm trying to think.
Oh, like a one-time visitor to
Yeah,
campus?
like one-time visitor, would they have to go to?
I believe so.
They all
I
have
believe,
to do
yeah,
that.
they have to do the Raptor, which is a lot better than doing the DOJ and the fingerprinting. So I'll take Raptor over
You guys
that.
just hear that? Because that is the alternative. There are school districts that are doing the fingerprinting and the DOJ stuff and much more intrusive sorts of things. or now our Raptor system is actually serving that purpose for us.
Yes.
I just talked to them again the other day. They said they're not interested in changing at this point. So as long as we have people go through that Raptor system,
We spend a lot of money
it
on it.
suffices for those approvals.
Yeah, the only time where we'll ask a vendor to do the fingerprinting in the DOJ is if it's coming out of district funds. So they're assigning an independent contractor with us versus with you guys, and that's when they would do that process. But if it's coming out of PTA, then all they have to do is the Raptor, and as long as you guys get the liability
Okay,
insurance.
good to know, because that
then
is
it's good.
different.
Yeah.
Wait, what if you have a man coming in the evening to talk to the children in the pack?
Then that I wouldn't even, you don't need the Raptor.
Okay, so.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt, right? Just to have it, just to make sure, because it's technically a school event, but as long as it's after hours.
Yeah, it's
Then
after
it's not-
hours, so the
it's-
kids would be coming out the room.
Exactly. They're not being forced, so to speak, to be there as if it was
As long
during
as people
school
know who
hours.
are interacting with the kids. They're not
Yes. Yeah. If they're dropping something off, like a bounce house, then no, they don't need to do that. Yes.
Well, not a bounce house, because we can't use them, can we?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
As long as someone is there to supervise it, then yes, then it'll be okay.
So even a performer, would that count as interacting?
Is it during the school hours or is it after school?
Well, I guess
If it's during a school hours, I would recommend them going through Raptor. If they're gonna be on campus during a school hours, then yes.
There's so
Just
much
to be
trust.
safe, yes, to be safe, I would have them go through the Raptor system.
Okay, or a dumb question, how much interaction is interaction with kids? You know what I mean?
I was
A
gonna ask
DJ
that.
standing
Like,
away, doing his whatever. Is not.
I say if you're gonna step on campus, right? If you're gonna be stepping on campus as like a DJ and you
In
are
there in a kind of permanent fixture capacity.
correct, I would still do Raptor.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
a count though for events though that during the school hours where we're allowing parents to come on as visitors and not necessarily are Raptor approved either.
Oh, they should be.
Oh, but they
Raptor,
should
they
be,
should
yeah.
be.
Parents, yeah,
Yeah.
Even during a family picnic.
Yes.
yeah, I believe so. I think they want, as volunteers, as volunteers.
As volunteers.
Yeah, if it's a family picnic where they're not there on a volunteer capacity, obviously they don't need to go to Raptor.
So no, yeah, no Raptor is not voluntary.
If they're not participating in.
As a volunteer, then no,
Okay.
Then you don't.
Right.
For visit, no Raptor.
Yeah.
Volunteer, Raptor.
Right,
all
so
gonna have
can
to
it,
ignore it.
like, so when, if a photo booth person is in the visitor, see is not really interacting because the parents are there, do they still need to go and get approved?
is that photo booth operator gonna be there the whole time?
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
and-
what if parents who don't like, can we just let her in?
Up to you guys. I don't wanna get involved in that.
That's all I need to know.
And then the Raptor, all the applications goes directly to the school site. So they manage all that. So it's good for them to cover their butts too, so to speak, for that as well.
And for you to cover PTA.
Yes.
too.
Yeah, we just want to cover our bases just in case, because you never know what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you never know. That very 1% chance is what the district is always looking at, that 1%.
No, so what if you do get a parent that isn't rep declared that wants to come on campus, like?
And be a volunteer?
No, but if they're coming on for like a picnic and they're not rep declared and.
Are they,
So
Just a
then,
visitor?
what's the capacity? Is it to volunteer or they're coming in for?
For a
They're coming
picnic?
in for a picnic, so, and they're
No,
not rep
they don't
declared.
need,
They don't
yeah.
have to be Raptor.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they can have somebody that's, I don't know, got prize. I don't know. They
That's
can
what I
just-
kind of think too. I mean, I feel like, well, I don't know. I'm not sure how likely it is a pervert's gonna sit next to another kid and do something, but I guess that's the nature of perverts, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you just never know, right? That
Like,
1%
pervert
chance.
had
Yeah,
it,
so.
If they were pervy, they'd have, it'd be obvious and then they never get to do anything, but they look
Yeah.
like us, so I feel like maybe that's what we come down to is like, whatever the highest degree of being around children would be for our own children. If you knew that you were potentially putting your kids sitting them next to a group of people and you didn't really know much or anything about them, like, I don't know, I'm not bringing you, Michelle's a good.
I know.
Michelle's not.
As I look around.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is I mean, to what extent there'll be an exposure to.
Well, that's
other
what I
children,
remember, the
that's
parent would
something,
not
yeah.
like, but.
But maybe that's a discussion you have at your school site with your principal, as your advisor about what they, I mean, Although I think everybody should probably be, I'm sure that there's.
Oh, I
You
guess
know.
that isn't it. So say I go back and I say, principal, blah, 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 this is what I'm saying, but she's saying, oh, I think this part's okay, we don't need that, I can follow what she says, right? I don't have to.
Yeah,
just
I
stick
mean,
with
that's
it,
up to
like-
you. I would say, always err on the side of caution, right? But if you feel like the risk is low, right?
Yeah.
If you're analyzing, you're like, okay, this is really low, then that's up to you. If you don't want to have to go after, we're just suggesting that. It's not like a
What is, like,
mandatory
the
thing.
DJ that we've used for the last 10 years that has been on campus for, and. we've never
Yeah,
had-
and that's the risk you're gonna
Without
take,
even
right? So you
doing
never
that.
know.
So, but, and you know, it's.
And yeah, asking for stuff, they're like, oh.
It's still your liability though, too. Right? So
Exactly.
Even if she says, oh, I think it's okay, it's like, well, maybe ask PTA Insurance, is this okay with you? Do you think they need to be through an approvals, process?
I agree, you have to err on the side of caution,
Yeah.
because that 1% could cost you millions of dollars with a
for sure.
lawsuit.
And it really wouldn't cost PTA as much as it would cost the district. Because they're gonna go to the district with the deep pockets, exactly. So we're always very mindful of things too. And we're always thinking that 1% is gonna happen, so.
Well, to that extent, it's, we're lucky.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because they're gonna go where the money is. Isn't that why people go to Disneyland, right? And they're gonna like sue Disneyland. We're not as big as Disneyland, obviously, but that's kind of the same mentality. Is go for the people with the deep pockets.
It's just for Disneyland's, what's it called? Man, they don't give it a.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Oh, wow.
They'll send 20
My
lawyers.
sister, she was from Boston, she is down in so much.
I've heard.
Yeah, they do not. They're all-
Disneyland does not pay for comp.
They do, but to prove it is like, it's difficult. It's
Interesting.
not-
Wow. Even with
So I
today's
still have a couple questions.
Sure.
If you're going on to make an account, it seems to me that it's cleanest if PTA has one person that's doing the permit request versus dozens, which it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would help. It's, so let's say that person is no longer the president, just a new person is gonna have to create an account.
We just have a.
Or they can turn it over.
Or they can turn it over.
Yeah.
So it'll be cleaner, because then they'll have a track record of everything, or just have your.
Well, you could look at the history and see.
Correct.
What they did previously.
Yes.
And how they utilized.
Yes.
the
That would
facilities.
help too, versus then I would have to go find that event.
And when you make the account, it needs to be in the name that's on the insurance certificate or not necessarily?
It would be nice if it says your school PTA. That's all, and that should be fine. That will suffice. Because sometimes, let's say I do it under my individual, then what I see is my name, individual, as if it's me personally renting it versus you renting it as part of PTA. That's
And you're
why.
not covered by PTA insurance.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
that's
one
fine.
other thing,
Yeah.
we did put in a permit request to use the Performing Arts Center at South High School.
Okay.
For our spring brunch. However, it has changed, the event has changed to be in the main gym.
Correct.
So would we ask you to make that change?
So something like that, go ahead and put in the comment section, right? Just go to your little request. Anything can be done in the comment section because really it's like emailing. It's like emailing with a record of everyone that has access to it. So then you can't say, oh, I asked you to change it. But then that other person isn't aware of it, right?
I'm sure we got that request back, now that I think about it. Every other one has come back except that one.
Joanna already took care of it.
So have
Yeah,
you
but you did
entered that
need a
one? Should I
council
see that on my dashboard?
You won't because it's under my name. So once I
Oh,
transfer it
because
to your account, then you will see it on
Okay,
your
all right. And
dashboard.
so I should just be able to
I don't
go
need
into
it.
my calendar and then see all my booked.
Correct. Or you
Okay.
can even go under your reservations. And
It's
it'll,
really cool, you can look through all the different.
yeah, you can look at all the
And would that
different,
be everything for my school or just everything in my account?
everything in your own account.
Okay, so I don't know if Denise has set stuff up. 'Cause I think Denise went into village on, did up the library committee stuff and the book fair stuff.
As a
She might
separate
have her-
account.
She might have her own account.
Yeah.
I think she did.
So
because-
she has her own account and only she sees it. So
Okay.
that's why it also helps too, to have a collective one that you guys can share among you guys, because then you guys can all have access to
So
it.
we could just set up King at Seaside.
But see, you created one and said your name.
Well, no, because you can change that.
So
Like,
all
you go to
schools,
mine,
like basketball,
you go
when
to
they
the-
use the gym for practice,
Are you
they
going
have
to
to go
make
through
generic?
Priscillatron
We can
too.
do a generic. You go-
What we're trying to get is the coaches, yes, to put in the request, so then that way outs, because once a coach puts in the request and Chris Johnson approves it, then no one can rent it. It'll say that
So everyone has to
gym
go
is,
through the.
it would be
Priscillatron,
nice, so
whether
that
they-
way it'll know if a facility is available.
I'll leave them somewhere and I.
Did you have a question? Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Jan?
One, so like in the case of like, well, Seaside, I guess, if they've got a few accounts, could somebody like the president request them all be put under one central account once they figure out what that central account should be?
Yeah, so just let me know. You can just email me or again, do a comment and just say, can we consolidate all the accounts? I would need to know what email address is under.
Oh, the email with address that was used to,
Create that account or create the, yes, to create those reservations. If I have
okay.
all of that, then I can ask them to consolidate it under whoever is, whatever email account you guys want it under. So that would work.
That's good advice.
Where was that bit that,
So anyone can make an account?
Yes, anyone can make an account. Yeah.
You have your address. I know, but I did change it. That's Seaside PTA, but,
There can be multiple people on one organization.
yeah, but there was an area that I had my personal details in there. How do I change that?
What do you mean? Anything else? I don't want to take up too much people's time. Yeah, so I hope that helps. And then Terry, feel free to share everyone my contact.
Oh, actually, in fact, somebody was asking your email.
Oh, yes. So it's, should I
Yeah.
put it on here?
All the TUSD emails are easy now.
Yeah.
What's your login? What was the login and everything?
I have no idea.
Chew.van@usd.org. Michelle. That's right. And her,
I've learned it's not the one on the board.
and her phone number, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry. There you go. And then that's my work cell, so if that can be text. I can receive text on that email as well. So feel free to text, because I'm half of the time in the office, I'm on a phone call, so it might go to voicemail. But I make sure to return every call and every email.
And Van works weekends, you guys.
I do, I work weekends. Everyone's like that. Huh?
Stop that part.
Well, there's some issues with Seaside, because Seaside has new locks. I'm not sure if you guys know that.
Seaside needs a full-time person with all this stuff going on.
Yeah, and you, yeah, like I said, Seaside got new locks. There's been some issues. Yeah, we've had some issues with people jumping in the fence over at Seaside.
Oh,
But that's really like soccer, right?
No, I think they were doing barbecues and at Seaside. Yeah, so locks have been changed. Well, it's not from PTA. You guys are off the hook.
So they thought it was a free park.
Pretty much, which a lot of our renters think it's free park. So yeah, so yeah.
Thank you so much.
So I hope this helps. Feel free to reach out if you guys ever need a walkthrough on any of it too. I'll gladly assist.
We did hit up several schools by being here tonight, so we appreciate you being.
Of course, of course.
And,
Of course, yes. Let me know if there's anything else you guys may need.